right, Miss Felicity, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
You're not terrified at all.
Not by half.
No. I wanted to have this amazing conversation. One, I just want to learn your Aussie lingo, like language. We should have like a whole conversation about the things that I have learned and discovered.
That's it.
Yeah. What have you taught me? Legend?
Yep, legend. So when you're a legend, you're top sort. You're just good people. I don't know how else to describe it.
Even university. How do you say university?
Uni.
Uni.
Yeah, we sort of shorten it. What else did I teach you? I think I taught you about different sort of trees and that sort of thing.
Oh my gosh. I think every time we talk, I'm like, I've never heard that one before.
You're like, wait, let me go. Check this.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look it up. Okay. So one thing that I love about you is your infectious laugh and personality and how you show up and make other people feel. But this wasn't always your story.
That's true.
This wasn't always how you, like you have this way of just going, okay, this sucks, but we'll figure it out, rather than allowing it to consume you.
Absolutely.
Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about kind of your journey and how you found Mom is in Control?
Sure. Okay. First of all, I have a daughter who is coming up 3 in October, and we didn't have the easiest start to the whole situation and birth and flow-on effects from there. And then things sort of spiraled down for me about the sort of 14, 15-month-old mark. My hormones were going crazy and I was chronically sleep deprived. We were sort of working out Alice's food allergies and all that sort of fun stuff. And things spiraled down to a really bad point and started getting severely depressed. And I basically, within a good couple of weeks of realising the thoughts that I had running through my head weren't exactly normal, I'm like, you know what? I need some help. I need some help. So I went off to my GP and spoke to her, and then she said, right, okay, let's try this and then maybe come back in a couple of weeks' time. And so we've kept following up as my symptoms sort of went up and down and left and right and round and round. Sort of from when I first went to the GP, so just the doctor, I was probably about 4 weeks later, I got to the point I'd had an exhausting day. We had taken my daughter off to, I don't know if you guys have this in Canada, and that's like sleep school to try and learn better strategies around sleeping and that sort of thing.
Like a whole school? You
go and you get sort of training on how to sleep strategies and what you can sort of do and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had gone off to there on sort of referred from the GP, and then we're all exhausted, emotionally wrung out and whatnot. And we got home that night, and then things started to just spiral out of control for me, and I just got into a complete and utter panic attack, which was really terrifying. I felt like I had no control, and nobody was safe. I felt like I had nothing, and I was just freaking out. So I realised this and said to, in my tears and whatnot and freaking out, I said to my husband, I said, no, you have to take me to the hospital. I'm not right. And so we were lucky enough to for our daughter to be looked after by our neighbours, because we don't have any close family from where we are. We are about 500-600 kilometres. I don't know what that is in miles, but yeah, so we're interstate to our family basically. And then, so I went off to hospital, and then got assessed, talked to a few people and whatnot from there. And then they sort of started getting me into the system in the sense of I was seeing a counsellor weekly, sorting out medication, antidepressant-wise, that sort of thing, to sort of just level me out. And it took me a long sort of time because I didn't want to ask for help. I didn't want to burden anyone. I thought, you know what, I should be able to do this. I'm a strong, independent person. Why can't I do this?
It's such a common belief of, I don't want to burden anybody. And I find this, I think it's all humans, but especially women. Like, oh no, I don't want to bug anybody. I don't or I can solve this problem myself.
Yeah,
I can figure
exactly.
it out myself. I even find that sometimes with people who still invest in coaching with this belief of like, I should be able to figure this out. Now my life mantra is, I don't need to figure this out myself. It's a co-creation with other people.
Exactly. And there's no shame in asking for help. You know, it's a terrible place for women to be in when they feel just so ashamed. Their bodies have been through the ringer, and it's hard work mothering a child, you know, and trying to figure out what the child needs and I always kept coming back to myself of going, you're never given more than you can't handle, right? So that's always what I sort of kept coming back to in that. And then when after sort of a couple of months after the panic attack and getting on medication and that, I found your podcast and just devoured that. And then sort of got into sort of out of the stages of postnatal depression where I was seeing the counsellor and whatnot. I felt like I wanted to take actionable steps I was sick of talking about my problem. I felt like I needed to actually do something. So hence my application, and what can we say? The rest is history.
Well, I'm also always very cautious. I'm a huge advocate of therapy. Coaching is very different than therapy.
Yeah.
It's almost like you need to figure out that sweet spot of, I'm ready to take action.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some therapists will do that for you if their practice is set up that way. And again, there's so much stigma around therapy. Talking about your problems, right? There's so much stigma of like, there's something wrong with me. And I think because I'm in that industry and that's my background, that I'm not personally stigmatized by that. Like, bring it on. We all got shit. We all got something to look at. But when you grow up in this world that, you know, everything happens behind closed doors, or you go on Instagram and, if I see color coordinated outfits with their children with perfect lighting anymore, I'm going to lose my shit. Because it's not reality. It is not reality. And we're plastering this illusion of what motherhood is supposed to look like, what life in general is supposed to look like. And then you have this baby. Well, if you did it traditionally and you come home from the hospital or whatever, and you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do now?
Oh, yeah. Especially, and like, we didn't have the easiest start with Alice. I had my baby shower in the morning and she was born in the afternoon. Of course.
But, you know, again, I just want to reiterate the fact that you can say that and then laugh. Like, it's like part of your coping strategy, right? Like, we just need to laugh this out. We just need to giggle, because if we don't, this is how we lose our mind. So let's talk about, okay. So if I'm listening to this, I'm wondering, you had a panic attack, you know, you knew your mind wasn't right. You asked for help. You said, drive me to the hospital. You went on medication. It sounds like you were consistent, even though you really didn't want to do it, you were consistent. Like you went to your doctor's appointments, you did what you needed to do. I'm saying this very loudly, you followed through with the suggestions, even if you didn't have the same belief systems as certain healthcare practitioners or whatever, even if you didn't want to be in that position, you're like, she's suggesting going to talk to this sleep person. We're going to go talk to this sleep person. So it sounds like you were very coachable. Someone said, go do this. You're like, awesome. I'm going to go do that.
Yeah, pretty much. Like we, because of Alice and her start. So she had, as I said, she had a rough start. She was 5 weeks prem, born interstate. So we went home for the first 3 weeks.
Interstate. To me, that sounds like you had your daughter on an interstate. What do you mean?
Okay. So I was interstate, so I wasn't in my home state. So I was 6 hours away from home when she was born.
Oh.
And luckily I had family in the city that she was born in that we could stay with, because she spent 3 weeks of her life to start with in neonatal. I don't know if you guys have that over there, like special care. Yeah. Yeah. So, and she was also born with hip dysplasia. So she spent her first sort of 12 weeks in her harness. Basically, for those people who don't know what hip dysplasia is it's like the ball joint of the hip doesn't develop properly. And because she was coming out, but she got stuck and she ended up being born emergency C-section. But when she came out, her left was touching her right ear.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful.
It's like a little Barbie.
Pretty much.
Aww.
So yeah.
She's gonna be double jointed when she's older, and she's gonna be like, guys, look at me, my secret talent.
Oh, she's got massive superpowers, this girl.
Oh my gosh.
Oh dear. But yeah, so we didn't have the easiest start, and we had to sort of fly by the seat of our pants until we found something that worked. We had to go to this doctor and that doctor, and then try different medication so she was a reflux baby, then sorting out her food allergies, trying to get her to sleep, and now to her most recent diagnosis, which is juvenile idiopathic arthritis. So that's a new challenge that we're faced with. So
and we just laugh through it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Why not?
I want to know, so are you still on medication?
No, I've been off. I was on it for a good solid 12 months. So from last February through to this February, and I was super duper proud of myself. I weaned right down, took it really gradually, doctor's help, all that sort of stuff. And now I am looking, through like mindfulness techniques, practices, stuff I've learned through what you teach, like holistic care, natural supplements, that sort of thing. I'm finding that is helping me immensely. So, yeah.
Food is a big one, like how the body reacts. Okay. There's these seasons, there's these periods, right? Where we have these, it's really hard to explain to somebody because I'm not a doctor. I will never claim to be a doctor. And then this is the frustrating part, because you look online, this is what happened for me. You look online and, they're telling you can cure your stage 4 cancer by drinking green juice, right? Or you can cure depression, just work out every day and clean your eating and do all of this stuff. There's a lot of shame around taking medication.
There is, exactly. Yeah.
I hate when people are like, I'm for it, I'm against it. I'm like, I'm very neutral with medication. Medication has saved my life. I truly believe some people need it. Everything. It's like coffee will affect some people, others, like how our body is a experiment. Our body is like a science experiment, right? And we're connecting these chemicals together, and some it works great, some it doesn't. And we literally just have to find our way through. But
Yeah,
there
absolutely.
is this world of Western versus Eastern versus functional medicine. And I'm a huge advocate of integration. So what you're talking about is learning like, wow, I was really in like a crisis state. I needed to do something, but I was willing to get out of that hole. And now it's like, you're never going to stop doing the work. You just keep learning more and going, oh my gosh, what's next? What's next? What's next? So what if you could look back at your older self, well, younger self, because it was like a year or two ago, and go, I can see why that happened. Like who were you before? You're like, oh gosh, yes. Who were you before you were a mother? Like, could you see red flags? Could you see the stepping stones that kind of set you up for like this? I want to call it, and we'll talk about motherhood and how our children like force us to become the best version of ourselves. But can you see everything that kind of was put in place that after becoming a mother, you could see how all of this just erupted the volcano per se? Let's just call it a volcano.
Yeah, exactly. Look, absolutely. So another sort of experience that I've had that has sort of led me to be the person that I am today is that I had a near-death experience with a car accident, a severe car accident. I was 24 years old. So and after that car accident, I was young. I thought, you know what? Oh yeah, I was a bit sort of spaced out for a while, but I didn't really deal with it. I didn't really acknowledge
about the car accident because you told me about it one time, and I'm like, you should have been in like the Mission Impossible movie. So, can you just like paint a visual for people of what actually happened?
Yeah, cool. Okay. All right. So this was in 2011. I was coming back, driving home from work. We lived out in really, really rural, isolated area. It was about a 60 kilometre drive, so an hour and a bit on the way home. And the roads were had started to be torn up because there was floods a few weeks before, and so the floods had tore up the roads quite a lot. So a bit sort of patchy, that sort of thing. I was driving around a corner and lost control of my car, went over a bridge, dropped 6 metres into a river, and sort of when I was conscious, I guess, the whole way through. And then when I sort of came to, I had probably 2 to 3 foot of water in the car. And I looked back at my rear windscreen going, you know what, I can't stay where I am right now. And got myself, undid my seatbelt. I was lucky I wasn't not severely injured. Adrenaline's a wonderful thing. I got myself out through the rear windscreen. I remember looking down. I've actually still to this day got glass scarring in my hands because it was obviously the windscreen was broken, so I was trying to drag myself out through the windscreen. And then I sort of had probably a fairly steep sort of climb. Yeah.
Did you have to like crawl, like you're in the driver's seat, you have to crawl through like the back seat to get out of the back window, like the rear window?
In a river.
How high was the water?
Probably 2 to 3 foot in the car.
So like up to your chest?
Yeah. As I was sort of getting out type thing.
Fast? Like how long were you in that car for?
Look, I don't remember times, to be perfectly honest. I remember obviously I remember losing the control. I remember screaming as I realised what was happening. I remember the impact. And then, it was just a matter of I knew I had to get out ASAP. Basically, I knew that I wasn't going to survive if I didn't get out, basically. So out through the rear windscreen and then up sort of a really sort of steep incline for probably, 20 or 30 metres, so not too bad. And then there's no one to be seen. Obviously, I start to freak out. Adrenaline starts to wear off. And I was really lucky that a passing car was able to stop and help me. And I was able to call my husband, who was then my partner, and I managed to get him just before he turned onto our road because we didn't have phone service. So I really caught him at the right time too.
Oh, my gosh.
So, yeah, I was incredibly lucky. I got to obviously transported by ambulance. I had like some pretty severe sort of glass cuts in my hands and my knees and that. I had a massive sort of cork, bruised thigh type thing. It was an old school car, so it didn't have electric windows. It had the old winder windows, and so that went into my thigh. So, yeah, like that was pretty serious.
Yes. And how do you think that affected you?
It's an interesting question. Like, I think it made me a lot more aware of how life is not guaranteed. We all don't get the perfect 70, 80 years, die in your sleep when you're 80 type thing. To sort of be confronted with your own mortality at that sort of age was, it does your head in a bit. Obviously, I had to deal with a lot of fear with regards to driving cars again, especially on slippery roads and that sort of thing. It's definitely made me a lot more aware of how to keep myself safe and that sort of thing, which, again, I think is sort of translated into who I am today as a mother. Like, I knew that I had to keep myself safe. I knew I had to seek help, all that sort of stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that is actually mind-blowing to go, okay, I'm not safe. I need to ask for help. And it's like you're resorting back to those innate abilities to go, kind of like, I'm sinking in water here. If I don't get out, I'm going to die.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly. And like, I've always been a fairly independent sort of person. Like, I moved myself across country, interstate again, to go to university when I was 18. I was the first person in my family to go to university and complete a degree. I moved to a town where I knew no one. So that's the sort of person that I always was or have been, or that sort of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So tell me about, okay, so you and I have had many in-depth discussions about motherhood, but let's talk about, I'm writing right now, so I'm in it, but I always say, and I truly believe that our children, on a bigger woo-woo level, it's like they pick you to walk them through this life. It doesn't matter how your child was guided to you, whether you physically birthed them, whether, you've adopted them, whether, I don't know, they just came in your life somehow. Everyone's a mother. Even if they don't have children, they are a mother. We're always, as women, we're always mothering other people. And, anywho, I believe that our children pick us even when we look and go, I am not strong enough for this. I can't do this. This child is better off with somebody else. Like, I can't provide emotionally, physically, financially, whatever for this child. What's your perspective on that, and what Alice has literally pushed you, to become this woman?
Yeah, hugely. I would not be the person I am today if I did not have her in my life. Like, she has amazed me with everything has been done to her time schedule, hence her birth, and that sort of thing. She's just, she pushes me, she challenges me, and she makes me a better person, which just blows my mind that someone so little can have such an effect on you. She's my only child at this stage, and I just, yeah, I didn't know it could feel like this. And yes, it's been fucking hard, you know, and I've had to adapt to her needs and ask her in her moment of crisis. Say she's having a meltdown. She had a meltdown tonight over a face washer. I'm like, okay, all right, don't take it personally. What do you need? You know, and sort of getting her to articulate her needs and sort of have it as her mother, sort of having to intuitively sort of feel, okay, yes, she needs this. No, she doesn't need this. And sort of let her grow within a healthy boundary, if that makes sense. Let her, she's her own person, but, you know, she can't have ice cream for breakfast, no matter how much she asks for ice cream for breakfast.
Exactly. Oh, don't you just love, children are definitely personal growth on steroids. Every day they will show you where you need to grow.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's a slap in the face. Sometimes it's like, oh.
Yes. I know. I'm like, damn it, biology, genetics. Why do you make us want to have children? Like, it's so funny watching people out. Like, every time I'm out in public, sometimes I see people so overwhelmed and they have like a shitload of children behind them. And I'm like, why didn't you stop at 2 if you thought it was so overwhelming or something like that? But it's funny because innately as creatures, that's what we do. It's like we need to procreate to make sure that our species survives, right? We don't want to go extinct.
That's it, God forbid.
Oh gosh. Some of them though, those species should be extinct. Okay. So let's talk about your future.
Ooh.
Your big, scary dreams.
Fun. Okay. I would love, you know, whenever it happens, I'm going to have a big property of me, my husband and our kids and that sort of thing. I'm going to be having horses and dogs and cattle and all sorts of fun farm stuff. And I'm going to be like a coach. I'm going to be, but specifically within the sort of mindset as it pertains to sort of equestrians and horses and that sort of thing. I'm going to be writing articles and talking to people and creating more events and creating community and all sorts of fun stuff.
I love it. And we don't need to know when it's going to happen. We just need to be able to hold the vision and to say, it's coming. And what do I need to do today to get there?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Felicity, this has been a fun, beyond fun conversation. I think you are one of the most resilient people I've ever met. And I think you're a perfect example of just how putting a smile on your face and just saying, I'm here. We did it. We're alive. Let's keep moving forward. And what I've taken away from today is, like you were talking about, the importance of asking for help. And you're not a failure if you ask for help. And I think it kind of goes full circle to the last statement you just said, which is community. We need each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially as women. We are not, if we go back in history, we did not do this motherhood thing, even this whole life thing in isolation. And somewhere along the way, we just started putting ourselves in little pockets and we removed the community. And all humans, one of the basic human needs is community. We need each other. We need to feel like we belong. So thank you so much. I am so excited to see where the future takes you. And I think Alice is one lucky girl.
Thank you.